Did Shekinah Anderson just nuke her own career on live record? In a packed Atlanta courtroom, the temperature dropped 10 degrees when she stood up, shaking, clutching a shiny silver flash drive like it held the secrets of the universe. Nobody saw this twist coming. Not the judge, not the media, and sure as hell not T.I. The crowd froze as she muttered, "They wanted the truth. Here it is." Then boom, the video rolled and pandemonium broke loose. T.I. turned ghost white. Tiny Harris screamed for mercy, and reporters practically tackled each other for the perfect shot. What started as a dull hearing morphed into a full-blown Hollywood meltdown that shook the entertainment world. Was this Shekinah's grand revenge tour or her emotional cry for justice gone wild? Why expose something so private, so explosive, right in front of the world's cameras? They say truth sets you free, but this truth came with fireworks. Because once that footage hit the screen, friendship, family, and fame all went up in smoke. And by the time the judge screamed for order, the damage was already done. The gavel slammed like a gunshot, sharp, final, and completely useless against the chaos exploding in that courtroom. The judge barked for silence, voice cracking like bad speakers. But good luck with that. The crowd was hypnotized. Every camera zoomed in, every reporter leaned closer, and every spectator held their breath as the forbidden footage played like a curse. Finally unleashed, Shekinah Anderson didn't flinch. She stood frozen, fingers locked so tight her knuckles turned white. The glow of the video flickering across her face, half terror, half triumph. In that moment, she wasn't just part of the scandal, she was the scandal. The courtroom had transformed into her stage, and the truth, whatever it really was, had become her ultimate mic drop. Then came Tiny Harris, shattering the moment with raw, ugly sobs. She buried her face in her trembling hands, shaking her head like she could somehow rewind reality. "Please, make it stop. Please," she cried, but no one heard her over the whispers, gasps, and non-stop camera clicks immortalizing her breakdown for the world to feast on. I sat frozen, jaw locked so hard it could have been carved from marble. No blink, no breath, just pure shock sculpted into silence. Every frame of that footage sliced through his composure like a blade, stripping away the legend to reveal the man underneath. His lawyers hissed frantic whispers in his ear, but he didn't twitch. Truth or trap, it didn't matter. The internet had already picked its villain. Outside, chaos went viral. Crowds swarmed the courthouse like moths around a scandal, screens flashing red with breaking news. Hashtags exploded. Hashtag SHEKINAH. Leak shot straight to #1, as strangers around the globe argued over the wreckage of a friendship they barely even understood. Inside, though, time crawled. Every heartbeat dragged years of loyalty, betrayal, and whispered secrets through the air. Shekinah Anderson's eyes, once bright with laughter beside Tiny Harris, now burned with a quiet, dangerous fury, the kind that only heartbreak can breed. Reporters later swore they caught it, that split second where her mask cracked, just a flicker, from power to pain. Like she realized that revenge doesn't taste like justice, it tastes like ash. But the cameras? They didn't care about heartbreak. They just wanted the shot. The footage cut off mid-frame, the screen fading to black and leaving the room thick with gasps and pounding hearts. For a second, silence ruled, then everything detonated. The defense attorney shot up like a rocket, screaming objections, calling the video fake, doctored, inadmissible. Tiny Harris's lawyer begged for a recess, citing emotional devastation. The judge's composure, gone, shredded like tissue in a fire. "Shekinah Joe Anderson," he roared, voice shaking with fury. "What on earth do you think you're doing?" Her answer barely broke the air. Telling the truth, the judge exhaled like a man hanging by a thread. "This courtroom is not your personal stage." Shekinah lifted her chin, eyes blazing. "Then tell me, where does the truth go if no one listens outside?" The line hit like a slap. A few people actually clapped before realizing this wasn't an award show. Others just gawked, torn between awe and disbelief. Was this courage or complete meltdown? Tiny turned toward her former best friend, mascara streaked, voice splintered. "You were my sister," she whispered, trembling. "How could you do this?" For the first time since the chaos erupted, Shekinah Anderson finally looked at Tiny Harris, not with rage, not with blame, but with the kind of heartbreak that only comes from love gone sour. Her lips trembled, ready to speak, but nothing came out. The silence between them said everything louder than any verdict, heavier than the footage itself, than the judge, sounding more exhausted than authoritative, called for a recess, a mercy break in a storm that refused to die. Outside, the world spun into full-blown hysteria. Commentators guessed motives, fans picked sides like it was reality TV, and news anchors broke down every frame of the leaked tape. But inside that courtroom, for Shekinah, Tiny, and none of it mattered. The real war wasn't online, it was inside them. Shekinah walked out first, heels striking the marble-like punctuation marks to a point she refused to take back. Her lawyer trailed behind, muttering about legal fallout, but she didn't care. The air felt thick, cold, judgmental. A quiet voice inside her whispered she'd gone too far. But another, louder and wounded, insisted this was justice. Tiny stayed behind, staring at the black screen reflecting her own broken image. For years, she'd built her life on loyalty to her husband, her fame, her best friend, and now that foundation was ash. She couldn't decide what cut deeper, the betrayal itself, or the fact that it came from the one person who used to call her sister. I finally stood, straightening his tie with robotic calm, the kind a man wears right before he explodes. His face was unreadable, but his eyes, pure fire. Without a single word, he walked out. Entourage trailing like obedient shadows, afraid to breathe too loud. Outside, chaos had graduated to full circus mode. Cameras swarmed like vultures. Reporters shouting over one another. Shekinah, was the video real? Tiny, are you pressing charges? T.I., do you deny the allegations? Not one of them answered. The silence itself became the headline. And in a world addicted to noise, that silence hit louder than any statement ever could. Night fell over the courthouse like the final blackout in a tragic play. News vans lined the street, antennas stabbing the sky in search of a signal that could decode the truth. Anchors screamed into microphones, breath fogging up in the cold. Breaking tonight, the Shekinah leak rocks, the Harris empire to its core. Words like betrayal, revenge, and exposed scrolled across every screen like neon poison. Meanwhile, Shekinah Anderson sat motionless in the back of a black car, staring at her own reflection in the glass, eyes swollen, face unreadable. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Reporters, fans, haters, ghosts from her past. Half hailed her a hero. The other half, a devil in heels. She flipped the phone face down. For once, the silence didn't hurt. It healed. Her lawyer finally spoke, voice heavy with dread. We need to talk damage control. This isn't a scandal, it's a wildfire. She exhaled, watching her breath fog against the window like smoke. Let it burn, she murmured. Maybe ashes are the only way to begin again. Maybe ashes are the only way to begin again. But deep down, the words didn't taste like freedom. They tasted like guilt with a bitter afterburn. This mess didn't begin in that courtroom. It started years ago when the lights were warm, the laughter real, and loyalty still meant something. Shekinah Anderson could still see Tiny Harris's living room, candles burning, secrets shared, dreams built over late-night talks. Back then, they were sisters in everything but blood. T.I. would stroll in, magnetic as ever, the sun they all revolved around. Fame was sweet, intoxicating, and for a while, friendship was enough to silence the noise. Then came the cracks, quiet, invisible hairline fractures in their perfect little bond. A comment that hit wrong, a decision made behind her back. The way the cameras always found Tiny, never her. Shekinah brushed it off, pretending loyalty could outlast ego. But fame doesn't hold friends, it bends them until they snap. She remembered that night, the party, the music pounding like a heartbeat, trying to drown the truth. She heard the whispers, her name laced with poison, lies about her loyalty, her intentions. When she confronted them, their silence said it all. That's when something in her broke quietly, permanently. The footage, the same clip, now setting the world on fire, had once been her insurance, not ammunition. She never meant to use it. It was just proof she wasn't powerless. But power whispers when you're hurting. And when the public turned on her, when the Harris circle erased her name like she never existed, revenge didn't need planning, it just happened. Her lawyer's voice sliced through her thoughts. You understand what you've done, right? This could mean defamation, invasion of privacy, even contempt of court. Shekinah Anderson's gaze turned to steel. They've been dragging my name through dirt for years, she said coldly. I just finally gave them something real to gossip about. Her lawyer exhaled in defeat. And at what cost? Shekinah. She looked away, eyes catching the courthouse lights glowing outside like dying embers. Somewhere in that building, Tiny Harris was probably still crying, and T.I., ever the strategist, was already orchestrating his counterattack. Press statements, denials, a polished PR cleanup on aisle chaos. Shekinah knew the cycle by heart. Outrage, denial, distraction, silence. The world would move on, hashtags would fade, but the people scorched by the truth never really recover. Back on the courthouse steps, Tiny faced her own apocalypse. Paparazzi flashed like lightning, voices pelting her with questions she couldn't answer. Mascara streaked, voice gone. She'd become the tabloid archetype, the betrayed wife, the fallen friend, the woman who lost everything but her composure. She hated the pity, the cameras, the circus, but most of all, she hated that a bond once called sisterhood had turned into public humiliation. Meanwhile, inside the Harris mansion, T.I. stalked the room like a caged lion. His phone buzzed endlessly. Managers, lawyers, producers, all talking damage control. He slammed it on the table, muttering through clenched teeth. They really think they can destroy me with this. But even as the words left his mouth, the mirror betrayed him. That wasn't confidence staring back. It was fear by midnight. The footage had been replayed, dissected, and debated to death. Experts argued over edits. Podcasts spun conspiracies, and social media crowned itself judge, jury, and executioner. Every frame was turned into fuel, and the fire showed no signs of dying. The footage slowed, replayed, dissected, then mutated into memes, moral think pieces, and podcast hot takes. What had once been Shekinah Anderson's truth had now become everyone's favorite form of entertainment. But when the world finally went quiet, Shekinah didn't. She sat alone in the faint glow of her apartment. Facing the same vanity where she and Tiny Harris once laughed before shows, her fingers brushed the mirror's edge, tracing her reflection like she was trying to remember who that woman even was. A notification blinked. One new message, an old number. Tiny, 3 words. Why did you do it? Her throat locked. She started to type, erased it, tried again. Nothing felt right. Some things can't be rewritten. She set the phone down and whispered into the silence because no one believed me when I was quiet. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, the anthem of a city addicted to scandal. She closed her eyes and let herself imagine a different version of life, one where she never pressed play, where fame hadn't poisoned friendship. But that world didn't exist anymore, as dawn bled through her window, washing the night in pale gold. Shekinah felt the truth hit harder than any headline in exposing everyone else's secrets. She'd stripped herself bare. Morning didn't ease in, it attacked. By sunrise, every TV screen in Atlanta was looping the same grainy freeze frame of Shekinah Anderson in court. Her face caught mid-truth. Beneath it, the headline rolled like a life sentence. Leaked footage shocks Harris family, betrayal or justice. The whole city buzzed like a hive. Talk show hosts turned philosophers overnight. Radio callers screamed hot takes. And influencers churned out reaction videos between brand promos. The truth was long gone. This was content now, and everyone wanted their slice of the scandal pie. Across town, in a glossy downtown studio, a full-blown PR war council surrounded T.I. like medics around a fallen soldier. We get ahead of it, his manager barked. Press conference at noon. Statement by 3. Deny everything on every channel. T.I. adjusted his dark shades, voice low, and Shekinah, a publicist, didn't miss a beat. We bury her. Discredit, gaslight, make her look unstable. The court of public opinion will handle the rest. He stayed quiet, because deep down, he knew they didn't need to make her look unstable. The internet had already done that for free, and with that silence, the PR machine roared to life. By afternoon, the narrative had flipped. Headlines shifted tone. Unverified footage sparks outrage. Shekinah under fire. Anonymous sources close to the family appeared on gossip sites, painting her as jealous, erratic, vengeful. Old videos were dragged up. Quotes, twisted memories. WEAPONIZED.tiny. Watched it all unfold from the quiet of her bedroom. Curtains drawn, phone on silent, tears dried to salt on her cheeks. The footage haunted her dreams, not because of what it showed, but because of who had shown it. Shekinah's voice still echoed in her mind, the way she'd whispered, "Play it," as if it were a prayer. Tiny replayed every conversation they'd ever had. Searching for signs she'd missed, her husband's face appeared on television later that evening, smooth and composed. The press conference was choreographed to perfection. Remorse without guilt, confidence without arrogance. "We are victims of a malicious act," he told reporters, "and we trust the legal system to uncover the truth."
He even claimed T.I. left him to struggle in the hood. But here's the kicker.
The words sounded right, rehearsed, safe, but they didn't feel real. She didn't know who to believe anymore. Meanwhile, Shekinah's world was shrinking. The same networks that had called her brave yesterday were now calling her unstable. Endorsements vanished. Invitations disappeared. Her phone, once buzzing with validation, now vibrated with threats and hate. She stopped answering calls. She stopped going outside. The city that once adored her now whispered her name like a warning. The few friends who dared to visit came with nervous smiles and quick goodbyes. One night, the nightmare got a face. A primetime news segment aired, showing Shekinah Anderson's apartment building blurred but unmistakable. The anchor's voice promised exclusive updates like her downfall was a reality show finale. She clicked off the TV and sat in the dark, heart thudding. Every sound, a car door outside, a creak in the hallway felt like judgment coming for her. The days melted together. She barely ate, barely slept. Her mind looped the same reel. The courtroom, Tiny Harris's tears, that fateful second she pressed play, the satisfaction she'd felt, that intoxicating flash of revenge, had vanished. What lingered now was colder, regret, heavy and permanent. Then came the letter. No name, no return address, just delicate handwriting and 2 chilling sentences. You wanted the truth to be seen, now everyone sees you. She read it over and over until the words went numb. She didn't know who sent it, Tiny, a hater, or some random spectator. It didn't matter. The point was clear. The spotlight she'd unleashed on others had turned right back on her, across the city. T.I. sat in his studio, surrounded by half-written lyrics and half-empty bottles. The press conference had tamed the headlines, but not his thoughts. The footage haunted him, flashes of shame, anger, and something he couldn't name. He'd built his world on control, on dominance, on never flinching. But now, every look felt like suspicion, every whisper like a verdict. Tiny walked in quietly, the air between them thick with things unsaid. For a long time, they just sat there to ghosts in the wreckage of their own empire. Then, almost to herself, she asked, "Do you ever think maybe she wasn't lying?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence spoke louder than either of them ever could. Rain began to fall thin, steady, merciless, rinsing Atlanta in a cold gray blur. Somewhere, a news anchor's voice droned through another late-night broadcast. The Shekinah scandal deepens tonight, as investigators work to verify the leaked footage. But the story had evolved. It wasn't just betrayal anymore, it was belief. What people chose to believe, how they twisted it, weaponized it, and used it to burn down whoever stood in their way. Shekinah Anderson stood by her window, watching raindrops carve paths down the glass. Maybe this was how truth always ended, not in triumph, not in justice, but in quiet, lonely ruin. The city buzzed with opinions, hashtags, think pieces, and over it all. Her voice slipped out in a whisper only she could hear. If I hadn't pressed play, would they have ever listened? The story didn't end there. It lingered like smoke after a fire. 3 lives once knotted by fame and friendship, now scattered in the ashes of what used to be trust. The courtroom was empty, the lights gone cold, but the echoes refused to die. Shekinah's trembling confession, Tiny Harris's broken sobs, T.I.'s silent fury. Some called it justice, others swore it was revenge. But maybe it was neither. Maybe this was just the cost of truth in a world obsessed with illusion. The footage might fade from the headlines, but the question it sparked would outlive them all. How far would you go to be heard when your silence means nothing? Maybe Shekinah wasn't the villain. Maybe Tiny wasn't the victim. Maybe T.I. wasn't innocent, or maybe they all were in their own twisted ways. Because in this age of filters, followers, and fragile loyalty, truth doesn't destroy you. It just reveals how broken you already were. So now the question's yours. Was Shekinah's act a desperate cry for justice, or the most calculated play for attention the industry's ever seen? Go ahead, drop your thoughts in the comments, and tell us whose side you're taking. Smash that like button if this scandal left you stunned. Share it if you think the truth deserves the spotlight. And make sure you hit subscribe, because trust me, this storm isn't over. The next twist is coming, and when it hits, you'll want to be here for it.